Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Benjamin. Boy, oh boy, can't even pronounce my own name right. That's not a good start to the week, Chipper. And I'm joined, by, as always, by my cohort, Mr. Chip Chirimbus from Las Vegas, Nevada, professional sports handicapper extraordinaire. Chipper, how was your weekend?
Oh, not bad. Little mixed bag. We won on Saturday, had a great day. College basketball swept the board Sunday. Yesterday, mixed bag, going 2-2 with a push on the New Orleans game. Lucky to have it. Thankful to have that. And decided to pass on Monday here. This Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game does nothing for me. I just want to take a breath of fresh air with the holidays coming up. I expect to attack them with the bowl game starting tomorrow, which is Tuesday.
So today on the show, what we're going to do is take a quick look back at the NFL yesterday, discuss what we saw, what we may have learned, and also we're going to be covering this week's college football bowl games. And stay tuned, folks. We'll both have a free pick at the end of the show. I'll be releasing a free pick on the Florida Atlantic Memphis game on Wednesday, and Chipper's going to have a free pick on tomorrow's Potato Bowl game between Tulane and Nevada. So stay tuned for that. Don't go anywhere. First, Chip, yesterday's card was a bit of a disaster for me after a great Saturday in which I swept the college basketball board. The NFL killed me yesterday. I did have the push with New Orleans like yourself. I felt like I won that game because we had no business even getting a push in that game because New Orleans, to me, boy, oh boy, I don't like the way they look, especially offensively.
I think Drew Brees is done.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have any zip on the ball, and he's throwing a lot of balls short. They're just coming up short, and then long. It just Drew Brees just didn't look good to me. Maybe to be better off with Hill, and God forbid Jameis Winston. I don't think so there, but. I think the Saints may be in a little bit of trouble here unless he was just getting the rust out. But Ross, you can't throw that sideline pattern 7-8 yards short. It can't be. I mean, short of the receiver, and a couple of the long passes as well. If he had extended those passes another 5, 6, 7 yards, the receivers would have been able to run under the ball. But instead, the defender was there, and I was hearing how great the defenders were, and they were adequate. They were certainly fine, but it was easier to play that position when the quarterback isn't getting the ball to the spot he's supposed to.
Well, my big concern, I agree with you on Drew Brees. Look, he should have had a couple balls intercepted, and on both occasions that I can recall, those interceptions should have happened more so because of his lack of arm strength than anything else. Right. I mean, you could see the receiver was open at one point, but because the ball hung up in the air, it gave the defenders plenty of time to react. So that's a concern for me. I agree with you. The other concern I had before the season began was the New Orleans Saints' lack of quality depth at wide receiver. I know that Drew Brees has made a lot of no-name receivers look awfully good in years past, Chipper. I don't think he has that capability anymore. And with Michael Thomas on the bench right now until the playoffs begin because of concerns for his health, and they want to make sure he's 100%. We may be looking to fade New Orleans the last 2 weeks of the year.
Yeah, that's just what I was getting at, and it just it's too bad, but it's the course of being professional. I mean, we saw it happen to Unitas, we saw it happen to Namath, and the quarterbacks and great players in baseball as well. The longevity, Father Time catches up with them, and this happened here. But you know who Father Time can't catch up with? Deshaun Watson. He just gets the fumble on the 1 yard line every time they play the Indianapolis Colts. Oh, Lordy. I was thinking of you when that happened.
Yeah, man. And that game fell right around the number where it was either 7 or 7.5, depending on where you looked. And, anything else that came up in the NFL yesterday other than that Kansas City, New Orleans game? Well, here's what I'll say, because I'm going to sound like a homer here, but I could tell you right now, if the only team I see having a shot at beating Kansas City come playoff time is the Buffalo Bills. I mean, I think, they're very balanced now offensively and defensively. I still have some concerns in regards to them stopping the run. The rookie running back from Kansas City yesterday, I don't know if you saw that, Chip, went down with what looked like a very serious injury, that Clyde Hilaire. And now it's going to be cast upon Le'Veon Bell to be the number one back. We'll see how that goes. You could do a lot worse than him as a backup. But Kansas City, to me, I mean, again, they didn't cover yesterday. They pushed. By all accounts, I mean, some people might have got a 2.5, but for most of the week they were 3.
Yeah.
And they're now 0-5-1 against the spread in their last 6. And the Buffalo Bills, 6-1 in their last 7. The only loss was that Hail Mary against Arizona.
You know, Russ, I think it has to do with the maturity of Allen. I mean,
Yeah.
he's in command out there. And I told you a couple of weeks ago how, impressed I've been with him, because I wasn't always the biggest fan. And I really think he's matured into the leader that the Bills need. And, when you've got that guy doing the things he's doing on offense, it compensates for a lot of their defensive deficiencies. And, the Bills are impressive to me, Addy. Everybody, I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people in our industry took a shot with Denver on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I just said, I just think that maybe the mojo is on the Bills side right now. And I stayed away from the game. Very fortunate to cover with Carolina with the 8.5, 9.5 is what it went up to against Green Bay. But the Bills, to me, I think it's all Allen. I think he's the key.
Yeah, and the defense is going to be the key too, Chipper, because Buffalo's playing without John Brown right now too, a very good wide receiver, and he gets back into the mix. Now you got him, Diggs, and Beasley. Who do you double team? And whoever you double team, you leave these other guys in single coverage. The only, again, the concern I have is the run defense, but the defense overall is really rounding into form.
Yeah.
Looks more like the defense we've seen in the last couple of years. And we'll see going forward. I mean, Kansas City is going to be a tough out in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, before they even start talking about Kansas City, the rest of the AFC is loaded, Chipper. You got Cleveland at 10-4, Indy at 10-4, Tennessee at 10-4.
Have you ever seen a team before go 0-5-1 against the number and be 6-0 straight up? I mean, I've never seen that before.
Yeah. And I mean, yesterday they were a 3-point favorite. So I was going to say, well, if they're better than a touchdown favorite, maybe, but probably it's rare if it did occur. Yeah, I know. That's a good point, Chipper. So I don't know what to draw any conclusions out of that, other than the fact that possibly they got a target on their head. It's everybody's bringing their A game against them.
They're always going to be favored, and being who they are, and having a target on their head. Other teams, like you said, will be up to play them. They don't want to get embarrassed or humiliated. And I just think this team has so much confidence, and this Mahomes has so much confidence that he just plays the game and does what he has to do, and he knows what it takes to win. And also, I'm not saying this team is just trotting through the season, but they know the playoffs come. That's when I pick up the gear, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just start covering those point spreads when the big games come.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Chip. If you were to have, I know you're not a futures player like myself, and I'm not either. I mean, I did a lot of articles before the season began on regular season win totals for OSGA. But I mean, at this particular juncture in time, do you, without even looking at the odds, do you see a sleeper in the AFC? Because the NFC, look, it's really top heavy, right? I mean, there's going to be a team in the NFC that's probably going to have a less than 500 record or 500 record coming out of the NFC East. You're going to probably have another team that's going to qualify at 9-7. But like I said, in the AFC, it's going to take 10 wins to get there. And do you see a sleeper? And I guess when I say, do you see a sleeper, Kansas City and Pittsburgh have been the top two teams the majority of the season. And without, taking my opinion on Buffalo into account, is there somebody out there you see as a sleeper that could win it all?
Off the top of my head, because I haven't really thought about this, and I like you do not like playing futures because I don't want it to cloud my interpretation of the next game. How I'm going to side with it. I think maybe one of the teams that at the beginning of the year that was being touted highly and got off to a kind of a rough start, the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, they're
Maybe the Colts
dangerous.
have the maturity and they have it at the quarterback and defensively, and maybe they can sit there and surprise. They get to play Houston every week. They'll go undefeated, but otherwise, when it's hard for me to come up with anyone. I don't think Cleveland has what it takes to get
Yeah.
there. Um, it might be the dark horse might be the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, Cleveland's an interesting team. My only concern with them is they don't have that one receiver that could stretch the field, and you can get away with it against teams like the Giants. But when you start getting into these games against better defenses, um, and not to slight the Giants'
Look,
defense because they've overachieved this year, I think that might be their enigma. And their running game can give people problems, though, Chip,
Ross, do
because
you think? Would you consider the Ravens a dark horse?
I
They're not even
would.
right
I
now. They
would.
don't even qualify.
Yeah, I would. I mean, they should. They're going to be tough because they got two easy games coming up next. The
And
Giants
it
and I
looks like
can't.
they're starting to play some football. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. The running game is starting to look like the running game they had a season ago.
No.
Again, the thing with the Ravens is, I don't want to beat a dead horse. It's if they get behind in a game at playoff time, do they have the capability of coming back? I don't know. I
No.
don't. They haven't proven they could do so. Namely,
No.
Lamar Jackson. And again, you're talking about an offense with your top receiver being your tight end and Mark Andrews. Nobody else scares you on the outside there. And
But
and I go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would say this kid Dobbins from Ohio State.
He's a good
Boy,
one.
he looks like a great running back, and you combine him with Jackson, and now all of a sudden, they just looked a little different to me yesterday when I saw them. Russ, neither and I think they're playoff built for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And yet when I watched them yesterday, I said, this team may be trouble because now everyone is saying maybe everyone's just pushing them aside and not giving them the kind of respect that maybe they deserve.
Yeah.
But if Miami wins out, what happens? I think they're out.
Yeah. And if Baltimore wins out, Baltimore right now is not in.
Right. That's what I mean.
So
If
Miami,
wins,
remember, Miami's got Buffalo the last week of the season, and they got another tough game this week too. I don't have the schedule in
right.
front of me because wasn't prepared to talk about the NFL next week.
Right.
But they have another tough game this week, and then they finish with Buffalo. Here's the thing with that final game against Buffalo: is that a game the Buffalo rest their starters, Chipper? Right now, they're alive for the number 2 seed. They're a game behind Pittsburgh, but they hold a tiebreaker. If they win their last two, they finish at 13-3. Pittsburgh would then need to lose one of their last two. Obviously, one of those games probably is not going to be tonight. Then Pittsburgh hosts Indy next week, and then they finish with Cleveland at Cleveland, I believe. So, I mean, that's not an easy schedule. So,
I don't think I can envision the Bills who haven't been there taking a game off or taking a rest or resting people.
They did last year. That's why I asked, because last year they had a playoff. There's a big difference, though. Last year they clinched a playoff wild card spot with 2 weeks left in the year.
Yeah.
And in week 17 against the Jets, they rested all their starters, and they lost that game. But they weren't. That was a different situation, Chip, because they weren't going to go any higher than the number 5 seed, and they weren't going to go any lower than the number 5 seed. So they really had nothing to play for. I mean, think about this. I mean, the number 2 seed, I know the number 1 seed is going to be Kansas City, right? I mean, they're not going to lose. Yeah. So the number 2 seed has to play at home in the opening week. If they win that game, now they get another home game the following week. So
it's big.
It's big. It's really big. So it's a difference between playing Pittsburgh at home and Pittsburgh on the road, possibly, if the Steelers get there. So, and that's no given the way it looks right now. So anyway, let's get to the college football bowl games.
Do it.
All right. A really good matchup tomorrow night, Chipper, and a game that I'm going to use most likely is the Central Florida and BYU game, the Boca Raton Bowl. And look, BYU right now, a 7-point favorite, and the total in this game is 72.5. BYU, when they stepped up to the plate to take on an undefeated Coastal Carolina team, surprisingly to both our surprise, they were dominated physically in that game,
Yeah,
which we hadn't seen all season long.
right.
Now you're going to take on a Central Florida team that really can't stop anybody, Chipper. But I always look at these underdogs, especially an underdog of a touchdown or better, that can score a lot of points. I like to use the boxing analogy that you're never out of it with an underdog that has a prolific offense like Central Florida. You have that puncher's chance kind of thing.
Right. I think I kind of like Central Florida here. I mean, BYU made. Um, I'm surprised the number was so high considering their performance last time out. And I was beginning to think that maybe BYU, who were high on early in the year, particularly after the way they beat Boise, um, thinking that they're a really good team. And then last time out, I said, oh boy, I said they've been very disappointing. Maybe they just quit on the season. They played 11, 12 games. I mean, they played a big schedule, though they didn't play originally who they were scheduled to play. And now all of a sudden this big number, that bothers me, Ross. I do like Central Florida. I think that they have a good chance to win this game. I'm just surprised the bookmaker, are they making them this strong a favorite because of the schedule they played or because of the public's perception? I'm having difficulty grasping why this number is where it is.
Yeah, especially considering the fact Central Florida will be playing in Florida. Okay,
Yeah,
I mean, I know from living there, and you live there as well, that going from the Orlando area where Central Florida is located to Boca Raton is somewhere around a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
I don't know what the ordinance is. I know they're going to be able to have some fans there. BYU will be traveling cross country, but as opposed to the Coastal Carolina game, they're going to be doing so with a little more notification. Let's not forget, Chip, okay? They took that Coastal Carolina game, the game where on 2 days' notice, okay? That was supposed to be an open week. All of a sudden, you call your kids up. Guess what? We don't have an open week. We're going to be playing Coastal Carolina on Saturday. I know it's Thursday afternoon, but we're going to send you the new game plan. You know what I mean? There was a lot going against them. And then they had to go cross country beside. So a little different circumstance here. Let's move on and let's look at a couple other games here. Here's a game on Christmas Day. The Camellia Bowl between Marshall and Buffalo, two teams that finished the season disappointing. Marshall, after being in the top 25 all year long, Chipper, they lose their last game to Rice 20-0 as a 27.5-point favorite. Then they're a 4.5-point favorite against UAB in the Conference USA championship game. They lose there to UAB. And Buffalo, who had blown everybody out all year long, loses to Ball State in the MAC championship game as a double-digit favorite. Right now, we're looking at Buffalo as a 3-point favorite, a total of 53, which is pretty low for a Buffalo game. A lot of that has to do with Marshall's defense. Any thoughts on this one, Chip?
Yeah, both teams seem to have lost their karma. You know, everyone was high on Buffalo, and everyone was high on Marshall in that game. As a matter of fact, Friday night I went 3-0, and I had UAB and came back 2-1 on Saturday. Best bets on both days happened to win for us. This game, I think, is a really tough call because of the number and the fact that both these teams are coming off the performances they had. I mean, Buffalo had to be very disappointing for their backers. They were really never in that game. And, how they're going to respond here. My instinct is that the Bulls are a little bit better football team. And what is the exact location of this game, Ross?
The Camellia, it's being played in Montgomery, Alabama. So, look, Buffalo can't even draw at home. Okay, so you're not going to get a lot of contingent of Buffalo fans traveling to Montgomery, Alabama on Christmas Day. Now, Marshall, they have a very loyal following. So,
Well,
And it's
I don't think painted cardboard cutouts are going to help anybody this week.
no, I know, but I would assume based on what they did with the Rose Bowl that I haven't looked into this and I need to, okay,
Right.
that uh, most of these bowl games, if not all of them, will allow fans in. Okay.
Right.
So based on what we've seen with the Rose Bowl, they moved the one semifinal from the Rose Bowl to Arlington, Texas.
Arlington, yeah.
Because the state of California wouldn't lift restrictions on having fans in the game. Let's not forget these bowl games too. They got big sponsors and they want to make money,
Sure.
So again, we'll see. Anyway, Liberty and Coastal Carolina. Now, there's a real interesting matchup. I know that probably caught your eye right off the bat. Coastal
Absolutely.
Carolina right now, a 5-point favorite in this game, Chipper. Total of 58.5. This game will be played in Orlando, Florida. It's the Camping World Stadium bowl game. It's the day after Christmas. And boy, this is an intriguing matchup. It seems appropriate that two surprise teams in college football this year that are now both top 25 teams. Actually, Coastal Carolina is number 11.
Really?
And Liberty is number 23 in the country. Who would have thought? Raise your hand if you thought that Liberty would be playing Coastal Carolina on a bowl game after Christmas and they'd be a combined 20-1 and both nationally ranked. Now put it down because again, you're a liar. So
No, I was just asking to go to the bathroom if I could be dismissed.
okay. Anyway, what's going on?
Oh man, what a matchup! Absolutely, and too bad we missed out on a play against Coastal Carolina because of COVID last Saturday. I mean, we both liked, I believe, Lafayette or the Raging Cajuns in that game. I feel like I missed out, and I'm trying to stay away from the psychological approach as well. I'll get them this week. I want to be objective looking at this game and trying to. I'm going to take some time with this because I was impressed with both these teams, watching them this year. And like I said, Coastal Carolina coming off beating of BYU, that's a big win to come off of. So there are three. What you said now they're 5.5. Is that the line here? Or 6?
5. I got them at 5 right now.
And I thought I saw it lower earlier, a projected line even smaller. Maybe Liberty can play. I think we're going to have to do a little bit more investigating.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to see us search deeper into this game, but I'm looking forward to this matchup without question.
Yeah, Liberty beat Syracuse handily on the road. Now, we noted Syracuse was a terrible team this year, but they're still an ACC team. They also defeated Virginia Tech on the road, as we recall, as a 17-point underdog. And then Liberty also went to North Carolina State and lost by 3 as a double-digit underdog in a game they had a field goal blocked as time expired. So they're definitely battle tested. And we saw what Coastal Carolina did against BYU. But up to that point, Coastal Carolina, their signature win against a Power 5 team was Kansas in their opener. And how big a win is that? That was a winless, pitiful, pathetic Kansas team. So based on strength of schedule, Liberty, to me, is worth a look. There's no two ways about it. And any other games you'd like to discuss, Chipper?
Well, there's so many coming up, and right now, we've just been given the matchups, and all of a sudden the games are right upon us.
Yeah.
I mean, usually we get a week or two or two to see the matchups. I mean, we have a bowl game today on Monday, and Tuesday there's 2 games, and we didn't find out the matchups until Sunday. So let me take a quick look here. I think that I'd like that Marshall Buffalo game. I think that's an intriguing matchup. And this Oklahoma State and Miami game is interesting to me, with Miami being blown out and crushed last time out. Oklahoma State closing the season in a rather disappointing fashion. One out of them,
Yeah. So just from that fact alone, it brings a lot of intrigue as you just described it, because you had 2 teams that finished poorly.
I'm really wondering if Miami is really back. We had said all year long, with King leading the role, that the team has come out of the doldrums, not the franchise, but the program. And that loss they took last time out was really, really terrible.
I mean, let's not forget. I mean, I'm not making light of that or your point,
Yep.
but North Carolina, their offense could make a lot of defenses in the country look bad. That's a team that could really score.
Yep.
Would we have predicted they were going to score 62 on Miami's defense? Probably not. What we certainly weren't going to predict is they would have lost by 36 points at home in that game.
Well, the thing is, did Miami quit? That's I saw a lot of dog in that team the last couple seasons. Now, did that all of a sudden that mentality come back against North Carolina, or they just quit in the game?
I just think they got overwhelmed.
Okay.
I think that's probably, thinking back, other than Clemson, the best offense they played all year. And you can make a case. I know Clemson's got some excellent talent on the offensive side of the ball. The difference between a Clemson and North Carolina is going to be the defenses. Okay.
Yeah.
Clemson unequivocally better, but North Carolina is as an explosive a team in college football offensively that you could find. You know what I mean, Chip? So again, I'm not trying to make excuses for Miami, because there's no excuse for losing that bad at home. But let's take a look at the two big games, okay? And just take a look at the opening line. I'm not looking for a pick in a game on this game from you, and nor am I willing to put my best foot forward here just yet. But look at this Clemson Ohio State game. Clemson opens as an 8.5-point favorite. Actually, 8.5-point favorite as we speak. I believe it opened at 7. And the total in this game is 64.5. I don't know, Chip. I'm thinking this is a little bit high. That's my opinion. When I look at my power numbers that I normally use, I'm seeing this as an even game, but what do I know?
I was surprised Ohio State's getting more than a touchdown. Absolutely. Everybody's wanted Ohio State to be there. They've done everything they could to make sure they were there, and they wanted Clemson to be there as well. I mean, I'm just surprised this number is where it is. It's probably because of the way the way the Tigers manhandled the Irish. But to give Ohio State 7.5 points, I think is kind of inviting. I mean, that was the first thing I thought about, and yet I think the first glimpse I saw was that the public still likes Clemson in the game.
Yeah, again, I was going to say, I think public perception is indicative of the early line move. I think public perception is indicative of possibly the bookmakers bumping this up a couple points. Because if you stop and think about it, Chip, the last thing the public remembers right now, as you just touched upon, was Clemson waxing Notre Dame. And Ohio State struggling for a better part of the game against Northwestern before putting them away. So again, I'm going to take a hard look at this game, but right at this particular moment in time, I'm going to look for an excuse to use the underdog here. Notre Dame in Alabama. Alabama is just a machine offensively right now. They opened in this game at 19. They're up to 20. The total 67.5. And I'm sure this is going to be another one of those public perception games. The public sees Alabama waxing everybody all year long, and Notre Dame coming off a 34-10 loss to Clemson. How could they possibly compete against Alabama? I don't know. I mean, can they? I think they can. I really do. I think this is one of those situations where I'm not going to call for an outright upset here, but is it possible Notre Dame's going to get blown out 2 times in a row?
Well, sure, they haven't played the game yet, but let me put this to you. What if Notre Dame was playing Florida? What kind of number would you make on that game? Do you think?
I would have to say that Florida would probably. Florida would be about a 3-point favorite on a neutral field.
Okay,
it's off the top of my head, Chip.
Okay, so this line you think is comparable to what we saw last week, and with them being 17. All right. Big number. I mean, how do you? But Alabama's just their offense is so prolific. I mean, I love this kid at quarterback, and they're talking about here in New York, the Jets maybe losing the chance to get Mark Lawrence or whatever Lawrence's first name is.
Trevor Lawrence. Mark Lawrence should be so lucky. God.
Hey, ML, I give him credits. No, but Trevor Lawrence. So maybe the idea that he may not be the best quarterback coming out of college football. He certainly looked good last week, but there's some good talented people out there. The kid at Trask at Florida, BYU as Wilson, and you had this. So there are people out there that can play football at that position. Matt Jones, and I don't know if he's the best here, but this is awful big number. I mean, for Alabama, Jones is. I just like him. I really like him. I think he's a pro quarterback.
Well, here's my thing, okay? I know that they lost badly to Clemson, but I don't believe well, let's put it this way. I strongly believe that Clemson's defense is superior to Alabama's. Don't forget, Alabama's given up some points this year. I mean, they gave up 45 against Ole Miss and over 500 yards of offense. They gave up.
Ross, excuse me for stepping on you, but that was early. If you look at what their defense has done after the first.
I get that. I know they gave up 17 or less 5 games in a row, but then Florida came in last week and put up 46 on them and over 500 yards of offense. You also have to look at who they played in that 5-game stretch. I'm not lecturing you. I looked at that myself.
Yeah.
Let me just look real quickly, but I'm pretty sure the level of competition they played during that time, Chipper, wasn't the caliber that they're going to be facing on Saturday. And it seems like, I mean, that Mississippi offense is going to score on a lot of people, right? I mean, you saw that last week again. Go ahead, Chip. I didn't mean
Florida's offense, we would have to agree, is better than Notre Dame's, even though Notre Dame has a very good offense. It's going to be interesting. No, it's a great thing to point out. Florida was able to exploit or score a bundle of points against the Tide in the beginning of the year. They gave up a number of points, and I know that you are a great proponent on checking schedules. I know I do. We do it all the
strength of schedule. You're talking about playing in the SEC versus playing in the ACC. It probably is a wash this year, okay? Because the SEC wasn't as dominant a conference as they've been in years past. And there's some pretty good teams in the ACC this year. Miami, even though they got blown out, North Carolina's a good team. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say that the balance in the ACC might be stronger. But look at those 5 opponents that I was talking about, Chipper. Okay, so they gave up, to your point, 17 points or less in their last 6 regular season games going into that SEC championship against Florida. They played Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Auburn, LSU, and Arkansas. I mean, none of those offenses are going to scare you.
No.
They gave up 48 to Ole Miss. They also gave up over 600 yards of total offense to Ole Miss. They gave up 450 yards against Texas A&M. They gave up over 400 yards against Georgia. So my point being is, it seems like when they step up in competition a little bit, their defense is nowhere near as dominant. Now, I'm not implying that their defense is terrible, Chip, but in Notre Dame's offense isn't what I would consider a prolific offense, but they're balanced, right. And I think what happened last week is Clemson shut down the run. And then, Ian Book was 20 out of 28 for 219, and they couldn't stop Clemson, so they weren't on the field a lot either.
Well, no, it's going to be an interesting matchup. And like you said, Alabama, it's a lot of points. I don't know if the Notre Dame offense can put it together, even against Alabama's defense, which is vulnerable to, who's not vulnerable to Florida in that passing game? And the overall passing game in college is so different nowadays. I
think Notre Dame will be able to score in this game. I don't think that's my concern if I'm a Notre Dame backer. I think my concern is, are you going to be able to hold Alabama under 50? That's the bottom line. They did a fairly good job against Clemson, holding Clemson to 34. You would think you're going to stay in the game doing that, but Clemson's defense showed, hey, you know what? We had 3 starters out in the first matchup against you. It's a little bit different now. Anyway, so that's it, Chipper. I mean, now let's get to our free pick. I know that you indicated to me before the show started that you had a pick in the Tulane, Nevada game that you like to
Yeah.
share with the viewers out there.
I I think that this Wolfpack team is a more solid club than Tulane. Tulane, there are times when I'm just like really, really in shock. Now, we saw Nevada go out there against a San Jose team, and I think most of the people were kind of shocked or taken back with actually how good San Jose really is. And I think that Nevada was shocked at how good San Jose really is. But I think that physically and mentally they're tougher. I like them against Tulane in this situation here. I expect the game to be close to a pick 'em. I think Tulane's a small favorite here. But that was my first instinct was that game is that I'm looking for this Nevada team to bounce back off of that performance against San Jose, because I don't think people realize just how that San Jose is that good. San Jose just beat Boise, and I think Nevada bounces back here.
Yeah, San Jose also beat Nevada. So, I mean, in Nevada, like you said, Chipper, this is a team that got off, I believe, to a 5-0 start. Um, yeah, they're a 3-point underdog. So the way it sounds to me is you actually like Nevada to win this game outright. But of course, if they're going to give you the points, you're not going to be greedy, correct?
I'm going to give myself the best chance to win.
Yeah.
I think if I can get 3, I'm going to take the 3 rather than try and take the money, because I got 3 other chances to collect. So
Yeah, it's my mindset. If you're going to take an underdog, they better have a realistic chance of winning. And when I say realistic chance, 25% and above to me is a real, between 25 and 50% is a realistic chance. So
you think Notre Dame can win the game?
um, if Alabama is not on their A game, if Alabama beats themselves, the only one who's going to beat in terms of straight up, the only one who's going to beat Alabama in that game is Alabama, in my opinion.
But I think Notre Dame has enough talent to make things happen.
I do too. I really do. I mean, again, it's too early to make a call yet, because the game is still better than a week away, right, Chipper? It just, when we start talking about college football playoffs, usually we're talking about them 3 weeks in advance.
You said a week away. I'm going, oh my goodness. What,
all of a sudden the task becomes overwhelming, my free pick is going to be in the Montgomery Bowl, played obviously in Montgomery, Alabama. There you go.
Prophetic.
The Florida Atlantic Owls will take on the Memphis Tigers. Right now, Memphis is an 8-point favorite in this game. I like the way Memphis finished the year. They weren't the Memphis team we saw a season ago. There was a group of 5 team that made it to the New Year's 6 bowl game. But by the same token, their strength of schedule far exceeds what Florida Atlantic faced this year in Conference USA, as the AAC is not a bad conference. I mean, it's not considered to be a Power 5 conference, but it's certainly the 6th best in the country, in my opinion, and it's not even close. And the last year alone, you could have made a case they were maybe a top 4 in the top 4 conferences without the label. So just based on that, Chipper, my free pick is going to be on Wednesday in college football. That's the Montgomery Bowl that kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going with Memphis -8 over Florida Atlantic. And Chip's play is on the Nevada Wolfpack +3 over the Tulane Green Wave. And that's the Potato Bowl. And that goes tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Chip, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I heard that Spud McKenzie is going to make an appearance at the Potato Bowl, and I'm really happy about that because
and I heard Spud Webb was going to be there too. Anyway,
Nevada needs the support. Looking forward to this week. We got some great games on tap here. And by the way, didn't that Florida Atlantic win their bowl game 49-3 last year?
Yeah.
I think they, so maybe their comeuppance is going to happen this week for
Remember,
them.
Lane Kiffin was the head coach there last year, not Willie Taggart. So a little different scenario, but it's a good point. and their level of competition they're facing. They weren't playing a team the caliber of Memphis, as I recall. I'd have to look at that though before I put my foot in my mouth. Anyway, Chipper,
Yes.
tomorrow we'll be back. It's going to be our college basketball free pick edition, and Saturday on that show we gave you two free picks. I had Indiana -7.5. They won by 8. Hey, a cover is a cover. They were up by 15 with 2 minutes to go, and a little thing happened here and there, a couple threes. They
Never in
covered.
doubt.
And then we had in the other game was Gonzaga,
Iowa.
Iowa over 171.5, and that game was closer to 200 than it was the 171.5. So we cashed in both plays, Chipper. Our last 7 shows in which we've released free picks were 9 and 5, somewhere around 64, 65%. Not too bad, partner. So we'll have you got 2 for today for the college football bowl games this week. Again, repeating, Chip has Nevada +3 over Tulane. I have Memphis -8 over Florida Atlantic. We'll have 2 more in college basketball tomorrow. Folks, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It's what helps keeps these videos alive. Be nice enough to give us a like. And until tomorrow, for Ross Benjamin and Chip Chirimbus, God bless and good luck.